Hello and welcome to Book 2, Fire on the Water, of our Lone Wolf Wednesday series. The story so far. In the northern lands of Summerland, it has been the custom for many centuries... Huh? Oh no, it's the same thing. So that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. Okay, where it changes. You got to Holmgard, the capital, and despite the many dangers, you fought your way there and delivered your warning to the king's court. You were greatly praised for your skill and bravery, but told your mission is not yet complete. With the Kai Lords dead, there remains only one power in all of Magnamud that could save your people from the Dark Lords, the Summer Sword. After the defeat of Vashna, the Summer Sword had been bestowed upon the allies of Duranor as a mark of trust and allegiance that exists between the two kingdoms. In return, King Alan of Duranor gave Summerland a magnificent golden ring, bearing the golden arms of Duranor. This ring is known as the Seal of Hammerdal. At that time, King Alan vowed that if ever the Shadow of the West would rise to threaten Summerland, Duranor would come to the aid of her ally. The king has given you the Seal of Hammerdal. Your quest is to travel to Duranor to fetch the Summer Sword back. But meanwhile, the enemy have broken through the outer defences to the capital and preparing to besiege the city. As Captain Duval of the King's Guard leads you to the Royal Armoury to equip you for your mission, the King's words keep coming back to you. 40 days, Lone Wolf. We have the strength to stand against them for only 40 days. You may now have one additional skill. So because we completed a book, we now get one extra skill. And I was saying we should really probably choose Talk to Animals. Guard Captain Duval leads you to the Royal Armoury, where your green tunic and Kai cloak are taken from you to be repaired and cleaned. While you await their journey, he hands you a pouch of gold for you to take. To find how much is in the pouch, pick a number from the random number table. Add 10 to that number. The total is the number of gold crowns inside the pouch. If you've successfully completed Book 1, you may add this to any crowns that you possessed from the end of that adventure. On a large table, sadly we lost like everything we owned by jumping into the river. On the large table in the center of the armory are a number of items. You may pick 2 of the following. Sword. Chainmail waistcoat sounds tempting. Food would also be useful. I'm going to go with the chainmail waistcoat. No. Memory says this reduces damage that you take by 2 or something. Your mission will be one of great danger. This is the same, this is the same, this is the same, this is the same. If you pick your skills, well, etc., etc., you shouldn't die no matter how crappy your combat skill rolls were. Okay. Captain Duval and his guards escort you to the Citadel Gate, where a small covered wagon awaits you. As soon as you clamber in, the gates are thrown open, and you are hurried away through the crowded streets of Holmgard. Well, my thinking is, Barb, that if we are in a city, I'll be able to pay for food, and that if I'm not, I have hunting. I specifically have both tracking and hunting, so I should be pretty good for getting a meal equivalent. After a short but uncomfortable journey, the wagon stops and the driver pulls open the canvas flap. This is the key, my lord. There is your ship, the Green Scepter. He speaks, and the driver points across the quay to a sleek trade caravel anchored near to the harbour wall. The first mate's name is Ronan. You will find him waiting for you across the square at the Good Cheer Inn. The driver bids you farewell and disappears into the teeming crowds. You reach the inn to find the front door locked and the windows shutters barred. You try to decide what to do next when a hand grabs your arm and you are pulled into the darkness. If you wish to draw your weapon and attack the unknown assailant, turn to 273. If you wish to pull free of his grasp, turn to 160. And we won't instantly attack. Forgive me, my lord. I did not mean to startle you. He seems nervous, and the open hand that is extended towards you is visibly shaking. With some caution, you accept this gesture of friendship and sit with the man at a tavern table. The place is deserted, save a couple of mice gnawing at a large chunk of cheese. Captain Kelman has instructed me to take you to the Green Scepter, but only if I am sure that you are the Kai Lord they call a lone wolf. Can you prove your identity? You decide that you must show him your mastery of one of your disciplines. And if you picked, like... It's possible from memory for you to have picked none of these, if you chose really weirdly, or if you choose not to prove that you're you, and then he, like... You have to go a really rough path, if I remember. We'll use the animal talking on the animals. Feeling hungry, you say, peering at the two busy house mice in the far corner. Would you perhaps care for some cheese? Using your discipline, you order the two mice to bring the cheese to you. The sailor looks on in amazement as the two furry creatures deposit the cheese at your feet and then scurry away. You are indeed a Kai Lord. Or should I say, you were! Ha 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 ha! As he speaks, the door crashes open behind you, and you turn to see 3 harbour thugs advancing towards you, each armed with a scimitar. You have no choice but to fight the 3 all as one enemy. Okay, they have less health, but the same combat skill. Next. No. Equip my weapon, please. I choose sword. Do I have my dagger from last round? No, I do not. Next. Yeah, they're half dead. 2/3 dead. Completely dead. You defeated the enemy without taking too much damage. Very well done. If you win combat, turn to 333. The sailor who claimed to be First Mate Ronan seems to have escaped during the fight. You quickly search the bodies of the harbour thugs and find nothing of value. You do notice that each of them has a tattoo of a serpent on their left wrist. Whoever sent them to kill you must already know the importance of your quest. You leave the tavern by the side door and discover the dead body of a sailor lying beneath some stairs. Inside the collar of his blood-stained jacket is a tag bearing the name Ronan. This must be the real Ronan. He has been murdered. You cover the body and turn towards the quay where the Green Scepter is anchored 300 yards from the harbour wall. If you wish to use one of the many small boats, or coracles... What the hell is a coracle? A small, rounded, lightweight boat of the sort traditionally used in Wales. Turn to page 300. If you wish to hunt down the imposter who pretends to be Ronan... No, let us head straight for our boat. As you paddle towards the sleek trade caravel, you notice to your surprise that the boarding ladder has been pulled up. A mean-looking sailor leans over the gunwale and curses at you. He seems to think that you are a refugee trying to stow away on the boat. But when you shout that you are the lone wolf, and you are ambushed by an imposter in the tavern, the ladder is lowered again. As you climb over the side of the ship, you are met by a tall man in gold-braided uniform. His face is covered by a shock of red bright hair and a bright red beard. "Haul anchor!" he booms. The crew spring into action as if their lives depended on it. The captain ushers you below to his cabin, where he pours 2 glasses of one Wanlo, a strong spirit. His face shows concern as you tell him of what has happened. There is evil treachery at work, and the enemy already has plans afoot to thwart your quest. He begins when you have told your tale. It seems that you have lost the element of surprise, and I have lost a courageous first mate. Let us only hope that the voyage to Duranor will be swift and safe. You leave him to go up on deck just in time to see the outline of Holmgard on the horizon. With mixed feelings of pride and apprehension, you descend the stairway to your cabin as the last spire of the capital disappears from view. Pick a random number. You have picked 2 to 3. Proceed to 316. The following morning you are woken by the cry of the ship's outlook, high in the crow's nest. Ship ahoy! Ship off starboard bow! You climb up on deck and brace yourself against the fresh sea breeze. On the horizon you can see the wooded coastline of East Summerland. But in the middle distance is a merchant ship that looks rather damaged. It is low in the water and has only one remaining mast. It flies the flag of Duranor, though the flag is upside down, a signal of distress. Use the random number table. You urge the captain to investigate, but he ignores your pleas and orders the crew to continue with their duties. As the trading ship disappears from view, you stare at it and wonder why the captain was so reluctant to do anything. You descend below deck and take care to lock the door of the cabin behind you. After 3 uneventful days at sea, you find shipboard life dreary. If you have healing, any endurance points that you lost in your adventure to this point can be restored. This will bring your endurance back to its original. If you do not have the skill, you may heal half instead. On the afternoon of the 4th day, you are talking with an injured sailor up on deck when you smell smoke seeping up from the hold. Warn the captain. As you burst into the cabin, the captain looks up in surprise. Fire in the hold, you gasp, breathless from your run. In an instant, the captain is through the door and ordering the crew to fill buckets with water and gather blankets to smother the fire. By the time you reach the forward hold, the smoke is dense. Suddenly, the ship is thrown into a frenzy as flames erupt from the hatch cover. It takes over an hour to contain the blaze, and the damage is great. The entire store of food and fresh water was in the hold, and the hull has been badly weakened. The captain climbs out of the smoking hold and approaches you, his face black with soot. He is carrying something in a bundle under his arm. We must talk in private, my lord, he says. Without replying, you turn and follow him to his cabin. After taking care to close his door, the captain opens a mysterious bundle and tips the contents onto his table. A large charred earthenware jug and several blackened rags drop in a heap. They give off a strange oily smell. This was no accident, he says solemnly. 'Twas an act of sabotage. The forward hold is a food store, yet I find this oil jug and these soaked rags on the floor. Someone on this ship is prepared to risk his life to stop us reaching Duranor. You stare at the burnt rags as if they hold the answer to your question. Suddenly, a cry from up on deck breaks the silence. Ship ahoy! Ship off the port! Grabbing his sword and telescope, the captain disappears through the door and up the ladder to the deck above. We will quickly search his cabin. Keeping an eye on the door, you quickly search the drawers of an ornate chart table. There doesn't appear to be anything unusual about its contents. You find charts, maps, navigational instruments. You are about to abandon the fruitless search when you notice a small lever hidden below a tabletop. You push it and a panel flips open to reveal a small wooden box with a brass lock. If you wish to prise the lock open, turn to page 190. If you have force telekinesis, mind over matter, turn to 287. If you wish to push it back before he knows something is wrong. Yeah, let's not piss him off by breaking his thing. It seems our bird has flown, says the captain, pointing to a long boat moving swiftly towards another ship on the horizon. She flies no flag, and her hull is of a strange shape. I've never before seen the like of it. You watch as the longboat reaches the mysterious ship. As if by magic, a sea fog appears from nowhere and engulfs the vessel. Moments later, both the ship and the fog disappear. Use the random number table. We have rolled 0 to 4, so pick this. You hear whispering among the crew and catch the words ghost ship and cursed voyage. But the whispering stops when the captain's voice calls for all hands on deck. Silence descends on the Green Scepter as Captain Kelman addresses the crew. We are 3 days' sail from Port Bax, but with a strong wind and a stout heart we will drop anchor and feast therein too. Fire has claimed many of our provisions, and our rations are hereby cut to 1 meal a day. A guard will be placed upon the freshwater cask. We are strong, we shall endure. Any man found thieving will receive 100 lashes. That is all. The crew seem unhappy, but none of them dares challenge his authority. Later that afternoon, you are invited by both crew and the captain to take your evening meal. Eat with the captain. The meal is poor and made of yesterday's leftovers. What the captain tells you as you finish your eager meal confirms your suspicions. I have a confession to make. The fire destroyed our entire food store. We will have barely enough in the galley for this meal. I feel that we will have to survive on a diet of fresh fish until we reach Port Bax. Unless you have food in your backpack, this makes you hungry and you lose 2 health. After dinner, the captain challenges you to a game of Saga, a board game, a little like chess, involving skillful strategy and bluff. To add a little excitement, he suggests a small wager. We can't eat, Boo hiss. If you don't eat anything, and you can't use hunting, you lose health. If you wish to accept his offer, turn to 12. If you don't wish to play, you can go to sleep by going here. We will play his game. Captain Kelman unlocks a display case and removes a Saga board. A beautifully carved playing piece. The beautifully carved playing piece is already in position when he carefully sets it down upon the table. After somewhat reluctantly agreeing to a wager of 10 gold crowns, you begin the game. Like half of our money. Your score is 4-6. Go here. You play a daring strategy, Lone Wolf, but I think I have you now. He moves the ornate keystone across the side of the board with a triumphant smile. But it soon fades to a look of shock as you unexpectedly counter his move. Stalemate, you reply coolly. He stares at the board in disbelief. The skills of the Kai never cease to amaze me, he says, slowly scratching his head. He is still staring at the board when you finally bid him good night and return to your cabin. So there was presumably a lose-win, or lose, draw, and win option, and we got the draw. As dawn breaks, a fierce storm rises, and you are woken by the violent rocking of the ship. The floor of your cabin is awash, and the shouts of the crew can hardly be heard above the howling wind. Dressing quickly, you gather up your equipment and make your way to deck. You are soon joined by the captain, who takes hold of your arm and orders you to return to the cabin. Suddenly, you start to go down. There is a thunderous crack. High in the sky, in the rigging, part of the mast snaps. You look up to see the shattered pole falling towards you. Oh, we rolled really bad. You dive backwards, only just in time to avoid the falling mast. It smashes straight through the deck. You stagger upright and peer into the mass of shattered timbers. Pinned beneath the broken mast is the lifeless body of Captain Kelman. As you stare in horror, a loud crack fills the air, and the storm breaks open the already damaged hull of the Green Scepter. As the ship breaks up, you are hurled over the side into the raging sea. Gasping for air, you claw your way up to the surface, but strike your head on a hatch cover. Lose 1 hit point, and pull yourself onto a makeshift raft. If you're wearing a chainmail waistcoat, discard it now or you will surely drown. But that was the special item I picked. In the grey light of the storm, you watch as the broken ship sinks beneath the heaving sea. You are feeling dizzy and very sick. Hanging on to the cover with all your strength, you gradually slip unconscious. When you eventually awake, the storm has passed. The only trace of the Green Scepter is the hatch cover on which you lie. By the position of the sun, you suppose it to be late afternoon. In the distance, you can see a small fishing boat, and beyond it, the coastline stretches out along the horizon. If you wish to use your cloak to signal the boat, or if you want to paddle towards shore, let's signal the boat. You desperately wave your cloak until you are near exhaustion. Pick a random number from the table to see if your action is rewarded. No. Oh no, we are in luck, for the boat has seen your distress signal and is headed towards you. A small fishing boat from the port of Ragadorn. The fishermen are a rough-looking bunch, but they wrap you in a warm blanket and offer you some food. Their captain suggests that you sleep, as it will be 2 or 3 hours before you arrive back in Ragadorn. No, I'll stay awake. It's nearly dark when the small fishing boat passes through the harbour entrance of Raggadorn. You still see no sign of survivors from the storm, and you fear the worst. You notice that the fishermen are acting very suspiciously. They whisper to each other, and their eyes glance frequently at your money pouch. As the boat sails into the estuary, they surround you and demand you hand over your gold. You are about to fight when you have an unexpected blow from behind that knocks you to the deck. You see one of the fishermen raises his foot. As it strikes your head, suddenly everything fades to darkness. When you awake, you are shocked to find yourself lying beneath a wooden jetty, and the shallow water surrounding you fills your nostrils with a foul stench. You stand, your head throbs violently, as if you had been knocked unconscious, for this is exactly what has happened to you. Your gold, your backpack, your weapons, all of your special items have been stolen by the fishermen. With a groan of despair, you climb out of the slimy water and pull yourself onto the jetty. Looking up, you find a faded sign. No. I need that. I need the seal. There are many ships of all sizes and nationalities moored on the harbour. The River Dawn, which divides the city of Raggadorn, has always been busy. You're about to give up your search when you spot the thieves' fishing boat. There is nobody aboard, but a thorough search of the cabin reveals a mace and 3 gold crowns, hidden inside a folded hammock. The hammock bears a label that reads, "The North Star Tavern, Barnacle Street." You take the mace and crowns and return to Stone Post Square. We will head along Barnacle Street because the note in the book, the note in the boat suggests there was goat. No. Suggests that they were in the North Star Tavern on Barnacle Street. So that is the street that we will head towards. 30 yards along, you find the sounds of merriment drifting out of a large, ramshackle building. There is a creaking sign above it, the North Star Tavern. Yes. The tavern is full of brigands and drunks. The good-for-nothing crews of trading ships moored at the jetty, all singing and drinking, while some try their strength at arm wrestling. All are so engrossed that nobody notices you enter. In the far corner, you see the fishermen that robbed you. They are seated around a table with empty ale tanks. You know that if you are to reach Duranor in time, you must retrieve the seal. Confront them, talk to the innkeeper, or try to win gold crowns at arm wrestling. Confront them. The fishermen stare at you with open mouths as if they have seen a corpse rise from the dead. One of them kicks open the table and makes their escape through the back door. In one bound, you leap over the table and pursue them out of the tavern into the darkness beyond. So do we go after the one that's running away, or the two that we have in the inn? I will pursue this guy. The back door opens onto a small square, in the center of which is a large tomb. The fishermen have disappeared into the gloomy streets. All that is, except one who slipped on the wet cobblestones and knocked himself out, lying in the gutter with his face submerged in a puddle. You roll him over with your foot and search him. You find 5 crowns, a dagger, and to your great relief, the seal of Hammerdal. Mark on your action chart those actions you wish, the objects you wish to take with you. Yes, I need the seal. We've lost Bane's crystal. Boo. 5 gold crowns and a dagger. If you have the discipline of tracking, turn to here, go back to the tavern. If you want to study the tomb, if you wish to head along Tomb Street, and if you wish to head along Watchtower Street. Let's look at our tracking skill says. You must find shelter for the night or you will risk being arrested by the city guard. Your Kai sense tell you the best course of action is to return to the tavern and ask the innkeeper for a room. Refreshed by a comfortable night's sleep, you could then make plans to reach Duranor first thing in the morning. As you enter the tavern, you see most of the sailors are cluttered around a table, watching an arm wrestling contest. How many monies do I have? 5. Let's talk to the innkeeper. We will buy a room for the night. The innkeeper hands you a key. Room 4, second left at the top of the stairs. I expect you out an hour after dawn. Your room contains nothing more than a bed, a chair, and a small table. You lock the door and prop the chair against it for good measure. Before settling down to sleep, you resolve to find another route to Duranor. In the morning, you awake at dawn to the sound of heavy rain falling on the cobbled streets outside. It has been 6 days since you left Holmgard. You must eat a meal or lose health. You gather your equipment and leave the room. As you descend the rickety stairs, you see the innkeeper clearing the floor with a mop and bucket. Can I use hunting? Somehow I think I'm not supposed to be able to use hunting in the city. But whatever. Talk to the innkeeper about how we might get there? The big man looks at you and says in a cynical voice, the coach station. The coach leaves from Port Bax this afternoon. For a gold crown, I'll tell you how to get there. But I've only got like 3 left. Yeah. Okay, I'll pay him. You get there by putting one foot in front of the other like this, and with a loud laugh he walks behind the counter and disappears into the kitchen. You curse his trickery and leave the inn, pausing only in your anger to kick over his bucket of dirty water. You head south and follow the quayside until you come to a junction, where the street heads off towards the east. Most of the shops in this street are still closed, except for one to your right. There's a sign above the door. Ginelda Coop, alchemist, magical potions, bought and sold. I mean, we don't have anything to sell, and she isn't the stagecoach thing. You are standing opposite a large building with a sign on the wall. Raggadorn Stables and Coach. A green-clad coachman is sitting next to a board that reads Portback's journey time 7 days. If you wish to approach him and ask to buy a ticket, turn to 136. 20 crowns. If you have 20 crowns, turn to page 10. If you don't, sucks to be you. Opposite the coach is a narrow street leading to a gambling house. No weapons allowed. You are excited at the chance of being able to win gold and quickly enter. Any weapons you have are left at the guard door. You can recover them when you decide to leave. You're given a silver token worth 1 gold crown. It can only be used in this gaming house. You only receive the silver free token once, regardless of how many times you come and go. The entrance hall opens into a huge room where gambling is progressing. One that catches your eye is called Cartwheel. At one end of the table, an attractive young woman spins a black dish divided into 10 sections marked 0 to 9. As the dish spins, she drops a small silver ball onto it, which eventually comes to rest in one of the numbered sections. So, basically roulette. Several merchants are seated around the table, and they are betting heavily on the fall of the silver ball. To play Cartwheel, you must first decide on the number you would like to bet on and how many crowns. Make a note of the number, and then pick a number from the random number table. If you pick the same number, you win 8 gold crowns for every one that you gamble. If the number that you pick is immediately before or after, you win 5 gold crowns for every 1 gold crown that you stake. There is a limit to how much you can win at this table, 40. You may play as many rounds as you wish until either you lose them all or you decide to pick up your winnings. If you've lost all your money, proceed to 167. If you have winnings to collect, or you wish to withdraw what money you have left, leave the building and go to here. Okay. What are we gonna roll? Let's bet on 3. You've lost a gold crown. 7. $1 left. No. How can we leave? You can't? Oh no, you can probably use back. Sure. You are standing opposite the stagecoach thing. No, no. Let's say that we have no money, even though we have one. And then we'll say we have no money. You leave the gambling house and walk dejectedly back towards the coach station. In the distance you can see the east gates of the city. Waiting below is the coach. You must get to Portback's. The future of Summerland depends on it. You slip past the guard and board the coach without him seeing you enter. As the departure time gets nearer, 5 other passengers climb in and seat themselves around you. The guard slams the door and you begin your journey. We've rolled 7 to 9. After half an hour, the coach is stopped by armed horsemen. They wear the black ship and red crest emblem of Lachlan, of the Overlord of Ragadorn. They demand gold in payment for what they call exit taxes, 1 crown from each passenger. The other travellers each place a crown on a small plate. If you can pay the tax, and do so, the coach will be allowed to go on its way. Luckily I kept 1 crown. During the course of the afternoon's journey, you chat with your fellow travellers and learn about their backgrounds. There is Ganon, Doria, Halvork, Persian, and Vivex. Sitting opposite are 2 brothers named Ganon and Doria, knights of the Order of the White Mountain, warrior lords of Duranor, who have pledged allegiance to protect the country from raids from the bandits of the Wildlands. They own a castle and lands near Portbacks. Next to them sits Halvork, a merchant. His nose is swollen and his face badly bruised thanks to Lachlan, the overlord of Ragadorn. A misunderstanding about port taxes lost him his cargo and most of his gold. Seated by the far door is a priest called Parsian. Like you, he is a Summerlending who has journeyed across the Wildlands by coach on his way to Portbacks. Besides you sits a young woman called Viveka. She is a mercenary adventuress who earns her gold by fighting for it, selling her services to the highest bidder. She is returning to Portbacks, having collected payment for a successful adventure in Ragadorn. Not wishing to reveal your true identity, you pretend to be a simple peasant. The travellers seem unaware of the war that now rages in Summerland. At dusk, the coach stops at an inn. The cost of the room is 1 gold. As you are about to enter, the coach driver demands to see your ticket. I don't have one. The driver becomes very angry. There is a long walk ahead of you, stranger. He slams the door in your face. You can't afford to buy a room for the night, so you decide to bed down with the horses in the stable. You have died because of the wounds you suffered. One of the other passengers on the coach, who is an agent of the Dark Lords, creeps out and assassinates you in the dark of night. Do you know who it was? Your life and your quest end here. 2 deaths. Again. Okay. I still want talk with animals. We know not to take the chainmail waistcoat. I would like sword. And I would like shield? Let's go with shield. Okay. Draw your weapon and attack him, seeing as we know that he's not who he says he is this time. You can't attack him yet. We know that he's evil. Let's Mind Blast him. You concentrate your Mind Blast at his open hands. He falls backwards from his chair, clutching his hand as if he'd just picked up a red-hot coal. When you explain what has happened to him, he looks at you in amazement. Okay, so we have to fight the thugs again. Fight, fight, fight. He didn't do much damage to us. Excellent. We could hunt down the imposter this time. I was worried about the time it would waste. Last time, you quickly deduced the imposter must have escaped by the main entrance to the tavern. If he's still in the harbour area, he must be in or around the main square. You search the buildings and alleyways, but find no sign of him. Rather than waste more time in a fruitless search, you return to the quayside and untie a small... Okay, so this is just you failed to find him. We meet the captain again, roll our random number table. This time, instead of avoiding the trader, he orders his crew to go alongside. As they board the trader, you are shocked by the sight that awaits you. Dead sailors cover the deck, many pierced by arrows. It seems they must have put up a desperate fight to defend their cargo, but not a trace of it remains in any of the ship's holds. Below deck, you discover the captain in his cabin, badly wounded and near death. We heal him! It must be Kazakhspluk. Placing your hand upon his chest, you try and seal the open wound. He has lost a lot of blood, and although heavily sweating, his skin is cold to the touch. His eyes roll open and he shouts a garbled warning. Pirates! Lakuri pirates! Beware the red sails! Repel the boarders! A strange package gives you a watch? How did they die? You mean a strange person gives you a watch? The captain is soon unconscious once more. You wrap him in blankets and place a cushion beneath his head. He's drifted off to sleep from which he will not wake. He dies. Back on deck, the bodies of the dead crew have been gathered. Captain Kelman approaches you and hands you a vicious-looking black scimitar. 'Tis no pirate's sword, Lone Wolf. This weapon was forged in the furnaces of Helgard. Helgadad. It is a Dark Lord blade. This is daunting news. If the Dark Lords have allied the Lakuri pirates, the voyage to Duranor will be a perilous one indeed. You fling the black sword into the sea and return to the green scepter. You set sail for the east and watch as the Duranor merchantman ship slips beneath the waves. So we're going to enter the hold this time. Fire! Fire! The cry grows up. Again, it destroys all the food. We talk to him. We'll follow him on deck. Okay, does the mast explode on us this time? The mast, yep, the mast explodes, the ship explodes. We don't have to throw away our chainmail waistcoat because we knew not to pick it. We'll try and head to the shore without getting robbed by the fishermen this time. When you are only 50 yards offshore, you slip into the waves and swim towards land. When you finally reach the beach, you sink your fingers deep into the wet sand and slowly claw your way up the beach to the shelter of some dunes. You are exhausted and hungry. The only possessions you saved were your gold crowns, backpack, and any special items that you did not discard in the storm. Your weapons and backpack items have been lost. Make the necessary adjustments to your action chart. However, a few hundred yards away, you notice clumps of small twisted trees laden with purple fruit. We have hunting. Because of your hunting skill, you were taught to recognize most of the poisonous and non-poisonous fruits to be found in the areas of northern Magmamond. The purple fruits are La Numa, a sweet and nutritious fruit. You quickly eat your fill and store enough for the 2 meals. Beyond the La Numa trees, you notice the wide coast. Okay, we grab the bananas. No weapon sucks. If you wish to head east, if you wish to head west. So where are we? Oh, wow. It's actually marked where we are on the map. Wow! That is a cool feature. So we want to head east. You walk for 3 hours along a lonely coast road before night falls. You are tired and decide to get some sleep and can continue at dawn. You remember the tales told by your Kai masters of the wildlands between Summerland and Duranor, where packs of wild dogs roam the wasteland at night. With these stories in your mind, you decide to spend the night in the safety of a large leafy tree at the edge of the road. Your rest is refreshing. Get 2 health back if you've lost any. Although you awake to a cold and rain-swept dawn, the branches of the tree and your cloak have kept you warm and dry during the night. Looking along the coast road, in the distance you see a wagon. Flag it down. It is a passenger wagon, similar to those used by the highway travellers of Summerland. The driver pulls the horses to a halt and stares at you. He asks where you're bound. We are bound for Raggadorn. Due there by noon today. A seat will cost you 3 crowns, but you could ride on the roof for but 1. I'll ride on the roof. You wrap yourself in your cloak and raise your hood. The driver shouts and whips the horses as soon as you are on your way along the tree-lined coast road to Raggadorn. During your journey, you talk to the driver and learn useful things about the seaport. Ever since Kalayan, the overlord, died 3 years ago, Raggadorn has been ruled, or misruled if you believe the driver, by his son, Lachlan. It seems that he and his men are nothing more than pirates. They tax the people heavily and murder those who oppose them. You are hungry during this ride and must eat a meal or lose 3 health. At last, in the distance, you can make out the city. A bell is tolling. It rings 12 times. Eventually, the coach passes through the west gate of the wall and pulls to a halt. If you want to get to Duranor, you could catch a coach from the stable. Best hurry, though. It leaves at 1 o'clock, the driver tells you. You thank him kindly for his advice and jump to the cobblestones below. For the first time, you suddenly notice the awful stench of the dirty seaport. A rusty sign nailed to a rot-infested house says, "Welcome to Raggadorn." How many monies do I have on me? Enough that we'll be able to afford the coach. Eat one of our bananas. And has it updated our position on the map? It has! This is so cool! Oh! If you wish to go north along Westgate Lane, turn here. If you wish to go south along West Bank Walk... East Gate. I want to go east. Towards the East Gate. The rubbish-strewn cobbled streets run between rows of ramshackled, rot-infested houses and shops. The few inhabitants of Raggadorn that you see appear a cheerless lot, their faces haggard and drawn. They shuffle through the gloom, hunched against the pouring rain, their eyes fixed on the cobblestones at their feet. When you reach a junction where Axe Lane bends towards the north, and another street heads towards the east. No, we want east. This street seems dirtier and smellier than the one you have just been down. A cluttered window of the shop to your left catches your attention. There are many useful items with price tags. You may enter and purchase any of the above. Remember to mark them on your action chart. When you've completed your purchases, continue on your way. The bridge is the only connection between the east and west sides of the port. And you push your way through the crowds of people and carts. Okay, so what do we have? We need a weapon. And we could probably do with another meal. Okay, no, I'd misremembered. The shield adds 2 to your combat skill. Fair enough. Explore the goods. I would like to buy 1 sword. 1 dagger, and a fur blanket. Why not? You are standing opposite a large building with a sign on the wall. Raggadorn Stables and Coach. A green-clad coachman is sitting next to a notice board that reads Portback's Journey 7 days. Approach him and ask for how much a ticket costs. 20 crowns. We do have it. So do we get murdered in our sleep again? Pay the one crown of tax. Get introduced to all the people. We do have a ticket. The inn is warm but poorly furnished. Eat a meal or for 1 crown. You can't use this. Yeah, here we go. The Kai discipline of hunting cannot be used when instructed to eat a meal on your journey through the wildlands, as it is a barren wasteland inhabited by only Sals, a weak and cowardly breed of Giak. We will buy a meal and keep one banana in our backpack. We will buy a room, because we know that we get murdered in our sleep if we don't. You sleep deeply without being disturbed before rising at dawn, gathering your equipment and joining the others as they board the coach. For 2 days and nights, the coach follows the trade route across the flat, treeless wildlands. It stops only to allow the driver to sleep. On the morning of the 9th day, there is an unfortunate accident. You are travelling along a narrow section of coast which follows a dizzying course beneath high overhanging cliffs. A rockfall has blocked the road and you must stop to clear it. You are helping the driver to leverage a large rock from the path when you hear a sound of falling rocks. The boulder crashes down from overhead, killing the driver before you could save him. He was standing less than 6 feet away from you. Use your spidey sense. You sense that someone is up there and intended you to be the victim. Slowly, one by one, the other travelers appear and stare in shock at the coachman. We will have to bury him, says the priest. You nod in agreement and prepare a grave in which to lay the corpse. As you walk back to the coach, you discuss what would have to be done. I know the road to Portbacks. I had better drive the coach, says Halvork. I hope we are not blamed for his death, says the priest. It was an act of the gods, says Doria. I shall testify to that, says Ganon. Lies are never spoken by the knights of the White Mountain. It is true that in Duranor, a true knight will speak only the truth, whether for his own good or ill. His words seems to reassure the priest, and you are all soon once more on the road headed towards the eastern horizon. It is late in the afternoon when you arrive at a coach station with a small coastal village known as Gorn Cove, which is mainly populated by outcasts, thieves, and Sals. No, I wanted to look at the map. Yeah, look, it's so good. The death of the coachman is met by the villagers with great suspicion, but Doria's words convince them it was accidental. There is only one inn, a tavern known as the Forlorn Hope. Its state of disrepair is typical of the other hovels in this poor sea village. A room will cost you 1 crown. The innkeeper is a thin old man with but one eye. He hands you a key and points to the balcony. Number 2, red door. The other travellers pay their crown, collect their key, and make their way across the crowded tavern floor. We must make plans for tomorrow, says Doria. The others nod in agreement. I suggest we meet here at the bar in an hour to decide what to do. As you close the door of your room, for some unknown reason you recall the words of Captain Kelman. There is evil treachery at work, and the enemy has plans afoot to thwart your quest. An hour has passed when your thoughts are disturbed by a knock at the door. This is the innkeeper, and he is carrying a tray of hot food. With the compliments of one of your friends, he says, and leaves before you can ask which one. The food is most appetizing, and you have not eaten today. Eat now, or suffer 3 hit point loss. Now, they've poisoned this. I remember this from it being a kid. This has been poisoned. If we use our hunting skill, the food smells delicious, but you notice that there are 2 or 3 drops of clear liquid on the side of the plate, and another on the tray. At first you suspect that it is only water, until you touch the fluid and notice it is sticky. You recognize it as sap from the Gnadern tree, a deadly poison used by assassins because of its lack of flavor or scent. The shock of your discovery turns to anger, and you race out of the room intent on discovering the identity of your enemy. By the time you reach the bar, the others are all seated at a large table, awaiting your appearance. Drawing closer to the table, you realize you have found your would-be assassin. You will have to attack without giving any warning to your enemy. Study your fellow travelers carefully and make your decision. The following descriptions are part of the illustration that originally appeared in the printed editions. Viveka is seated at one end of the table, with a wary expression, one arm on the table near a large mug of ale, with her finger tapping the edge. She is dressed in battle gear. Ganon is seated between Vivek and Harvok. A somber look. A somber look on his face. He is in the uniform of the King's Knights of the White Mountain, and he has a meal and wine cup in front of him. Doria is standing behind his brother, with a more gentle expression. The hilt of his sword is visible between the Knight of the White Mountain and his cloak. Another wine cup on the table appears to belong to him. Halvork is seated comfortably between Ganon and Parthian, giving you an ugly sneer. His hand stays close to the small mug of ale. Parison is sitting on the side of the table, close to you, but with his body turned to the side, opposite Viveka. His hand, which has a snake painted on, or a tattoo on his wrist, is holding a medium-sized ale mug. He regards you out of the corner of his eye from beneath the large hood. Well, the people that attacked us before in the alternate timeline had a snake painted on their wrist. So we will go with Parthian. The priest is not surprised by your attack. He draws a black sword from beneath his robes. So he's actually got really good combat skill. And most of the health that we do, if we didn't have the shield on us, this could actually be a bit worrying. Your enemy was able to stab you before you killed him, though he didn't harm you very much. Searching the body, you discover all you need to prove that he was the assassin. Inside his pockets, you find a half-empty vial of Gnardurm sap, the deadly poison that was used to taint your food. There is a scroll written in Giak giving details of your expected arrival in Port Bax. He must have located you at Ragaddorn and hatched his murder plans there. You notice that the weapon he carries is a Dark Lord blade, fashioned of black steel and forged in the furnaces of Helgadad, the infernal city of the Dark Lords beyond the Derncrag Range. Only there, in all of a vast Magnamund, can the black steel be made. But the final proof of his identity is a serpent tattoo on his left wrist. The harbour thugs who attempted to kill you before you had left Holmgard bore the exact same mark. His purse contains 23 crowns, which you may keep. Make sure to mark them. Yes, please. Taking us up to 24. We're down to our last dollar. The other travellers stare with horror and disbelief at what you have done. Before you can explain yourself, there is a loud crash as the front door is thrown open. In rush 6 armoured soldiers led by the innkeep, the town guard, and the one-eyed innkeep is screaming at them to arrest you. If you want to fight, or if you wish to run away, turn to the respective pages. We will not fight the town guard for no reason. Although night has fallen, a full moon casts a bright light upon the village. Behind the tavern, you see a small wheelwright's shop with 2 horses hitched to a hay cart. We don't have camouflage. We could take a horse and escape. Or hide in the shop. Let's try and yoink a horse. You spur your horse along the twisting village streets and across a wooden bridge and up a steep path towards the crest of the cove. In the light of the moon, you catch a glimpse of a signpost pointing eastwards. Oh, I should have updated the book. I'm an idiot. Shh, shh, shh. We're on book 2 now. Fixed. You ride all night without sleep. As the dawn breaks, you are greeted by a startling change of landscape. The barren wildlands have given way to moors and waterlogged fens. as a dark shadow runs the length of the eastern horizon as far as the eye can see. This is the Duranor Forest, the natural frontier of the Mountain Kingdom, where it borders the untamed wildlands. It is a welcome sight. You are no more than 1 day's ride from Port Bax, but you are tired from your night's ride and must eat a meal or lose endurance points. If you have hunting, you may use this skill to trap wild moor rats or marsh birds for your breakfast. Yes, please. Hunting, yes. After an hour's ride, you come to a fork in the road. Left or right? Follow the coast. The road follows a course along a high, grassy ridge for many miles before turning northwards towards the coast. You pass a village where the houses curve in a circle around a large pond of stagnant water. As you ride through, a gaggle of Zal children come running towards you, shouting and throwing stones. You descend into the deep valley beyond, and gradually the moor gives way to richer land that has been cleared and ploughed. The hillside opposite is heavily wooded. You are not far from the coast, and you can see the tall cliffs with their multicolored bands of rock jutting out into the ocean. Just as you are passing through a small copse, you hear desperate cries for help off to your right. If you wish to aid these people, or if you wish to ignore their desperate pleas... No, we'll help. We're at full health. You spur your horse through a tangle of trees until you enter a small clearing. 6 Zals are jumping excitedly around the writhing body of a man on the ground. A strange carved spear is stuck in his chest, and lying dead beside him is the body of a knight of the White Mountain. The creatures are shrieking at each other and appear unconcerned with the man's obvious agony. We have healing, so we can try heal him. Okay, we're going to... I don't have camouflage, so I can't hide. I'm going to have to fight the Zals. The cowardly Zals squeal in terror and run in all directions to avoid your blows. They flee the clearing, and you turn to help the dying man. He is barely alive. If you want to remove the spear from his chest, turn to 106. If you would rather search his backpack for useful items... Remove the spear. The carved spear is made of metal, though it feels as light as if it was made of wood. The shaft is covered in runes and magic emblems. As you pull it from his chest, he gives a long sigh of relief. You're about to examine his wound when you feel a searing pain shoot through your head. It is so strong and painful you collapse to the ground, lose 2 health. You're amazed to see the man jump to his feet, and then horrified to see the dreadful change that comes over him. The skin on his face appears to writhe and change color, growing darker and shrinking as it decays on his skull. His eyes burn with a bright red glow, and long, pale fangs protrude from his bottom jaw. You choke with fear as you realize this is a Helghast, a nightmarish agent of the Dark Lords. It is attacking you with its powerful mind force. If you don't have Mind Shield, you will lose 2 endurance for every round of combat. Normal weapons cannot harm it. It is immune to Mind Blast. You can only wound it in combat with the magic spear. Remember that you only get weapon skill bonus in this fight against the Helghast if you have weapon skill with spear. You cannot evade it. You must fight to the death. If you win, you may keep the spear. So he has more skill and more health than us. We did more damage because of a nice roll. He did more damage. He did more damage. We're on 1 hit point. You have died in combat. Your mission is lost. Rip. Death's 3. Okay. We still want animal kinship. We now know that there's little point in choosing almost any of these unless we get lucky with one of those saving rolls. We'll go with sword and shield. Go. Would you like to donate? No, thank you. Attack him. We aren't allowed to attack him. Prove that we are who we are by controlling the mouse. Fight him. Equip our weapon. Murder him. We did win. We will hunt you down. Okay, we wake up. Does the captain... The captain does not investigate the murdered ship this time. Shout fire. No real difference in outcome no matter which of those three options you take. Let's eat with the crew instead this time. We haven't done that yet. The crew's quarters are cramped and stifling, but despite the lack of space and a poor evening meal, the men are pleased that their invitation was accepted and treat you as an honoured guest. They invite you to play portholes and wager gold. No. Does the mast crush the captain? It does, and it blows up the ship. We will head there without getting on the fishing ship. We learn about the bananas. We yoink the bananas. We need to head east. I will pay the amount to ride the roof. Eat one of the bananas. We want to head to the east gate. So east. East. How much money do we have? Enough to afford a new sword. And a new spare dagger. Why not? Continue. Buy a ticket. Pay for the ticket. We're robbed again, or held up by the highwaymen. We do have a ticket. I buy the meal. We buy our sleep. We spidey sense that the people were trying to crush us. We will pay for a room. The poisoner thing happens. We know that it's poison. We know that it's the guy with the snake, Vivica. No, wrong one. Can we go back one? Sorry? No, we can't. I picked the wrong one. Well, we fight her. Primary hand this, shield that. Let's have a go. A very lucky first roll. A perfect roll. We smushed Vivica. You search her body and find no evidence that she was the assassin. However, you do get 42 gold crowns. We're rich. Killing innocents is good business. The innkeeper comes. We run away. We grab the horse. We eat. We use hunting. We want to follow the coast. We do help the people. We could try and save him. Okay. Search his backpack now that we know that he's actually an undead person. You are horrified to find that it contains a scroll of human skin, upon which a message has been written in a strange runic script. The only word that you can make out is Kai. You also find an evil-looking dagger with a black blade and a block of cold obsidian. These items bear the sign of a Dark Lord's craft. Something is wrong. You drop the pack as quickly as you can, as if it were red hot, and turn to mount your horse. You find that it is no longer there. Zals have stolen it. You realize that you must now continue afoot. You've been walking for 2 hours when you reach the peak of a hill and see the Duranor forest stretched out before you. The road bears eastward and enters the trees at a point where a large wooden tower has been built. You can see the silhouette of a soldier on guard. Sure, let's hail the guard. We have 6 cents. He is a loyal soldier. If you bribe him, he would consider it an insult. Show him the seal of Hammerdal. It is said that of all the lost treasures of the Duranese, the seal of Hammerdal is the only one they would not wish returned. The guard's anxious face shows that he clearly recognized this ring's dreadful significance. I will not hinder your urgent mission, but I cannot help you except to set you on the road for Port Bax. Continue on this forest path and you will come to a fork near a stunted oak tree. Take the left. It is the quickest way. You thank the guard and push on once more through the forest. A mile or so along the road, you come to a fork and take the left track. It leads you to a stone bridge. The waters of the Rime Rift are over 1 mile deep and up to 2 miles at its widest point. That is a ridiculously deep river. Near to the bridge, you find a signpost. You breathe a sigh of relief. You should be there soon. At dusk on the 10th day of your quest, you experience your first sight of the magnificent city of Port Bax. Like a diamond set in the green velvet shore, the towers of the city glimmer in the pale light of a waxing moon. To the north is the harbour and the formidable war fleet of the Duranese Navy. To the east, beyond the moss-covered city walls, stretches the forest of Duranor. And there, on the crest of a hill, stands a castle, tall and proud, the crowning glory of this beautiful port. You enter Port Bax through an unguarded gate in the green city wall and make your way through the darkening streets towards the harbour. As you turn into a tree-lined avenue, you notice the wide stone steps of a domed building. You stop and read the plaque, City Hall. Despite the hour, its doors remain open. We have tracking. You try to remember some of the stories told to you by an ancient Kai master called Wisehawk. He was envoy to Port Bax for many years, and he knew and loved the city as well as any native. You recall him saying that the consulate overlooked Allen Square in the naval quadrant of the city. There is a sign to your left pointing along the avenue. Naval quadrant. Certainly this is the right direction, and you walk confidently along the tree-lined avenue. At the end of the avenue, the cobbled street turns abruptly to the right. Opposite this point is a tall white stone building with a plaque above it. Port Watchtower Harbour Authority. You can see that the cobbled street ends at a high stone wall. There is a large red gate in this wall and it is guarded by 2 soldiers. Beyond the gate, you can make out the masts of ships moored in the harbour. Sure, we'll enter the port watchtower. There are 2 doors, white passes and red passes. Okay, we'll go to red passes. You enter a large room full of ledgers and files. You must have pressing business in the naval quadrant to apply for a red pass. I shall need to see your access papers and proof of your commanding officer's authorization. We will risk showing him the seal. Without a word, he gets up from his chair and beckons you to follow him, up a flight of spiral stairs that leads to a domed chamber. Here you meet the captain of the port watch, who listens intently as you tell of the war in Summerland and of your urgent mission. I'll issue you a red pass immediately, top priority. You collect a red pass, leave the port watch tower, and hurry along the streets towards the harbour guards. Mark the red pass on your inventory. He demands to see your pass. We give him one. The soldiers salute you and allow you to pass. You walk into an open square lit by the tall beacons lining the quayside. To your relief, you sight the marble pillars of the Summerland consulate and their familiar sun flag of your country flying above it in the fresh night breeze. As you climb the stone steps, you are recognized by the Summerland guards on duty at the main door. They disappear inside and quickly return in the company of a tall, grey-haired official. His anguished expression suddenly changes into one of joy as he beholds your ragged Kai cloak and tunic. Hope beyond hope. Thank the gods that you live. The scant news that reached us from the west was the cause of great alarm. You are ushered inside and taken immediately by the envoy, Lord Lieutenant Rygar. Your first meeting with the Lord Lieutenant comes as something of a shock. You'd half expected him to be a servile old man, as are the envoys of the southern lands that plague your king's court with their delegations. The man clad in heavy chainmail standing before you is neither old nor servile. You soon learn that Lord Lieutenant Rydgar is an exceptional man. Born of a summer-lending father and a Duraness mother, he has become something of a legend in the city. In the last decade, he has led an alliance of the nations to victory against the invading ice barbarians of Colt. Wise in peace and fierce in war, you could not have wished for better company in your quest for the Summer Sword. Rygar orders that a sumptuous meal be served, by far the best food you have tasted since the beginning of the war. During the feast, you recall the events that have brought you to Port Bax, and reflect on the daunting challenge that lies before you. After your meal, Rygar sends for his physician, who attends to your wounds. Restore 6 health. He advises you to sleep, for you are to leave with the Lord Lieutenant for Hamadal in the morning. Early in the next day, you are taken to an enclosed garden at the rear of the consulate, where Rygar and 3 of his best soldiers wait you on horseback. They are to be your bodyguard and guides on the 230-mile ride to Hamadal. The streets of Port Bax are just beginning to come to life as you ride through the town, passing under the moss-covered city gate. You feel confident that your mission will succeed. So far we've gotten from here to here, and we need to get here. So we're 2/3 of the way along where we need to be. We've rolled 5 to 9, turned to 254. For 3 days and nights you follow the highway to the capital as it runs parallel to the river Duranor. The river valley is a wide belt of rich, cultivated land that climbs towards the Hamadal Mountains, one of the highest ranges in all of Magnamund. It is on the morning of the 14th day of your quest when 6 cloaked men appear at the edge of your camp. Lord Lieutenant Rygar is the first to draw his sword. With a voice of authority, he demands an explanation for their intrusion. In reply, they unsheath black swords. He shouts to his men to prepare for combat as the cloaked strangers advance towards you. If you have sixth sense, turn to this. Your Kai senses reveal to you that the strangers are Helgast, fell captains of the Dark Lords. They have been sent from the Dark Lord city of Helgadad on a mission of assassination. They have the ability to take on human appearances, and they are immune to normal weapons. You turn to shout a warning to Rygar as you run for the safety of the forest. The forest drops away steeply at the edge of your campsite, and in your haste you trip and fall into the trees. You come to rest face downwards in a tangle of thick bracken. The ringing of steel and horrible cries of the Helghast echo through the trees around you. You are stunned and cannot move until a hand grabs your arm and pulls you upright. It is Rygar, his face bloody, his armor battered and charred. We must flee these demons, Lone Wolf. Strength and steel cannot avail us here. You glimpse the silhouette of 6 Helghast on the forest road, their minds bent on the slaughter of Rygar's men. They fail to see you both slip away under the cover of the wooded hillside. For 6 hours you run without rest. The Helghast are on the highway and you are forced to make your way through the steep and wooded foothills to avoid the risk of capture. Many times you feel that you just can't go on. The pain and fatigue are too much to bear, but each time you falter you are spurred on by Rygar. You marvel at his endurance. He is not a young man and he is clothed in heavy armor. By nightfall you have reached the entrance to Tarnalin, the western tunnel through the Hammerdal Mountains. The 3 tunnels of Duranor were excavated during the Age of the Black Moon, and each tunnel is over 40 miles long and passes through the huge circle of the Hammerdal Range to their capital. The tunnels provide the only access to the city. Rygar sits beside you and takes some bread and meat from his pack. Eat this, you must sustain your strength. From here you must venture alone through the Tarnalin. I shall remain here and hold the enemy back for as long as I have the strength to fight. Do not argue. Your mission must succeed. It is the only thing that matters. If Rygar is to hold off the Helghast, he will need a magic weapon, as his own sword is no use against the creatures. If you wish to give him your magic spear so that he can defend himself, or if you do not possess the spear, go to 118. You bid Rygar farewell and enter Tarnalin. Over 100 feet in height and width, the tunnel runs to the capital on the far side of the Hammerdal Range. It is lit by torches its entire length. The highway through the mountains is unusually alive, with the traffic of merchants to and from Portbacks. Yet now the entrance and interior are deserted, except for an overturned fruit wagon. As you walk deeper in, doubts nag at you. Have the Helghast perhaps arrived here first? You have been walking for an hour, or half an hour, sorry, when you see a strange creature atop a wagon in the road ahead. 2 feet high and resembling an overgrown marsh rat. You assume it is some sort of tunnel-dwelling rodent, until you notice that it is wearing a splendid jacket of patched leather and carrying what appears to be a spear. As you get near, it turns to face you, its whiskered nose sniffing the air and its bright black eyes peering into the gloom. It sees you and scampers off into the darkness. A smaller tunnel to your left. If you have animal kinship, turn to this. Sure. You recognize the creature to be a Nudnik, an intelligent but mischievous mountain-dwelling native of Duranor. The Nudniks inhabit a maze of smaller shafts and fissures that honeycomb the Hammerdal Mountains and live off what they can steal from merchant caravans that travel. It occurs to you that if you catch the Nudnik, you may be able to learn if the Helghast are hiding in the tunnels. Okay, then we'll follow it. You chase it as it hurries along a narrow twisting passage for 10 minutes, about to give up when the passage opens into a huge torch-lit cavern. A stunning sight greets your eyes. The cavern houses an entire colony of these strange creatures, busy sorting through and examining vast piles of strange objects. We have animal kinship. A large Nudnik, wearing a brightly coloured cloak of patchwork silks, orders several of his people to arm themselves and drive you from the hall. When you speak to them in their own language, a hush of astonishment fills the cave. Never before have they encountered a human who could speak their tongue. For some of them, it is too much to grasp, and they stare at you open-mouthed. their furry little arms hanging loosely by their sides. Then the large Nudnik addresses you, saying he is leader of the colony. He is Gashgis, and welcomes you and invites you to join him on top of a raised platform in the center of the chamber. Use neuter. Oh, use neuter. Use neuter these Duranese man, eh? Where's use come from, eh? Questions Gashgis in his strange Nudnik accent. You tell him that you are summerlending on your way to Hammerdal. He looks at you nervously. Use not a black screamers, eh? You realize that the black screamers that Gashgis refers to are Helghast. You learn that 2 of them arrived in Tarnland 2 hours ago and caused quite a panic in the tunnels. He knows where they are lying in ambush, waiting for you to appear. Isa show you's the way past 'em, eh? He offers. You nod in agreement and follow him down the steps to the platform to the hall below. The Nudniks seem to have overcome their initial shock and react to you now as if you were one of them. Before you leave, a pretty female Nudnik offers you food for your journey ahead. There is enough for 2 meals. You thank her for her generosity and follow Gashgist along one of the many passages leading out of the cavern. After an hour trekking through the dark, he stops and points towards a shaft of light that is pouring through a crevice in the distance. Yous goes left, yous be saved. You thank him for his help, and silently thank your Kai masters who taught you the skill of animal kinship. Many years of instruction have probably saved your life. You squeeze through a fissure in the rock wall and drop 3 feet to the path below. You're thinking how kind the Nudniks were when you discover they've stolen all your gold. You must now mark this on your action chart. So they gave us 2 food, but yoinked all our gold. And they gave us a safe path through the mountains that otherwise would have had two essentially unbeatable enemies. You have covered nearly 3 miles when you see a group of wagons in the distance. They have been strung out across the highway to form a barricade. Soldiers in red uniforms line the roofs of the wagons, and a large crowd of people have gathered behind them. You hear their excited chatter echoing along the tunnel. As you get closer, there is a sudden silence and all eyes turn to stare at you. A detachment of 10 soldiers led by a knight, whose shield bears the royal arms of Duranor, advances towards you. We won't be overly aggressive. Cautiously, they surround you and take your weapons and backpack. A knight steps forward and raises his valor. Who are you and what is your purpose here? He demands in a gruff voice. You tell him you are a Kai Lord, sent on an urgent mission to King Alan. He is unconvinced until you show him the seal. Without hesitation, he orders his men, return your belongings and usher you through the wall of wagons. Beyond you can see a horse-drawn carriage waiting at the center of a crowded tunnel. To Hammerdal, without delay, he orders the driver, and you are thrown back into your seat as the coach moves off at a breakneck speed. You soon learn that the knight is Lord Axim of Ryan, commander of King Alan's personal bodyguard. He was on his way to Port Bax when the Helghast entered Tannerlin. He and 10 soldiers were the only ones to survive a deadly encounter with these evil creatures. During your ride through the Tannerlin, you must eat a meal or lose 3 health. The journey to the capital will take 5 hours, and you are advised to get some rest. As you drift slowly to sleep, you begin to dream of the Summer Sword. You picture a triumphant return to Holmgard and the defeat of the Dark Lord's siege. Perhaps this is a good omen. Eat. Can I use hunting? Supposedly I'm allowed to use hunting. Which is odd, but whatever. It is early morning on the 15th day of your quest when you open your eyes to the breathtaking spectacle of Hammerdal, the mountain city, the capital of Duranor. Unlike other cities in the Last Lands, it does not need man-made fortifications. The circling peaks of the Hammerdal range offer a far more secure protection to the people within. The carriage speeds through the lush farmlands surrounding the city with its many towers and wide streets. On a hill in the very center of Hammerdal stands the King's Tower, a magnificent structure of glass and stone. As the carriage halts at the tower gates, you realize for the first time that as a wielder of the Summer Sword, your destiny is to become part of the oldest legends of the Last Lands. King Alan IV sits alone in his domed tower, viewing his mountain domain through one of the many portals of tinted glass. You and Lord Axim are formally announced as you enter the chamber. You respectfully bow to his majesty. Lord Axim removes the seal from your finger and walks to the king's side. Remember to remove this from your action chart. For an hour they talk, their somber faces reflecting the seriousness of the situation. There is a short pause of silent meditation, and King Alan suddenly rises from his throne and addresses you for the first time. Alas, the Dark Lords have awoken once more, and once more does Summerland come in search of our aid. I had prayed my reign would be remembered as a time of peace and fulfillment, though in my heart I knew it was to be otherwise. He removes a golden key from the pocket of his white robe and inserts it in a marble dais, standing in the center of the chamber. A gentle humming fills the room as the stone cover slides back to reveal the hilt of a golden sword. Take the sword, Lone Wolf. It is foretold that only a true son of Summerland can release the powers that lie within this blade. As you grasp its glowing hilt, a tingling sensation runs up your arm and radiates through your body. If you have sixth sense, go here. The power coursing through your body so overwhelms your senses you become oblivious to your surroundings. You instinctively raise the blade above your head, where a shaft of sunlight catches upon its tip and floods the chamber with a blinding white glow. At that moment, its true power is revealed to you. This weapon was forged long before the Summerlending, the Duraness, or the Dark Lords dwelt in the Last Lands. Its maker was a race of what men would now call gods. To release the power that it contains, only a Kai Lord may wield it. Should it be used in combat by anyone else, its power will fade and be forever lost. When used in combat, it adds 8 combat skill, 10 if you have weapon skill with swords. It has the ability to absorb any magic that is used against its bearer, and it doubles the endurance point loss. It doubles your damage to undead enemies. It is the only weapon in all of Magnamund that can kill a Dark Lord, and for this reason the Dark Lords are bent on thwarting your quest. So, we get the Master Sword. You now realize you hold the only power in Magnamund that can save your people. Slowly the light starts to fade and you become aware of Lord Axim's hand on your shoulder. Come, Lone Wolf. There is much to prepare for in your return to Summerland. You sheath the sword in its jeweled scabbard and follow Lord Axim as he leaves the king's chamber. Make the necessary adjustments to your combat skill total now that you possess the Summer Sword. Note that the powers of the sword under the special items section of your action chart. The muster of the army and the preparation of the Duraness fleet takes 14 days to complete, during which time you remain as a guest of the king. As each day passes, you despair for your besieged countrymen and pray that they have enough strength to resist until your return. Every day of your reluctant exile, you devote long periods to exercise and meditation. You are also visited by a Duranese herb warden called Madden, who is famous throughout the Last Lands for his knowledge and skill in the healing arts. Restore your health to max. He gives you a potent Laumspur potion that will restore 5 endurance if swallowed. Mark it on the backpack. He is also the bearer of some sad news. The body of Lord Lieutenant Rygar was found in the forest, near to the entrance of Tarnlin. He was killed by a Helghast. If you have Sixth Sense, turn here. You have noticed during your rigorous training with the Summer Sword that your Kai discipline of Sixth Sense has become more sensitive than ever before. You knew exactly what his sad news was going to be before he told you. You may find that your improved Sixth Senses will be an important advantage upon your return to Holmgard. It is early in the morning of the 33rd day of your quest when you ride into Port Bax with Lord Axim at your side. The preparations for war have been completed. The galleons of the Duraness war fleet lie in anchor at the harbour, impatiently awaiting the order to set sail for Summerland. On board each ship are many brave soldiers from the Mountain Kingdom, a tough army of skilled warriors, eager to face the Dark Lords in battle. Each man has sworn to avenge their besieged allies or die in the attempt. You are to sail back to Holmgard aboard the flagship Duranor, a warship whose great curving prow and tall masts emphasize its sheer power and strength. You and Lord Axum are taken aboard and welcomed by Admiral Calfin, commander of the fleet. And then the fleet prepares to set sail. In less than an hour, the harbour lies far behind you. The domes of Portbacks now merely dots on the horizon. Roll the random number table. Middle outcome. For 3 days and 3 nights, the fleet spread canvas and sail swiftly towards the Holm Gulf. But although the voyage is fast, each ship in the fleet is cursed by misfortune. Sails tear, ropes mysteriously untie themselves, timbers warp and leak. The men become so short-tempered in the cramped quarters and fight, often to the death. By the 3rd night of the voyage, Lord Axum is close to despair. Never have I suffered such a wretched journey. No enemy has been sighted, nor battle fought, and yet half my men are ill or wounded, and we've lost 2 of our finest ships. We have been jinxed by an evil moon. How? I pray that it would wane. For even if we were arrived now into Holmsgard this very night, I fear we would be too weak to break the siege. As he speaks, you can see the dawn of the next day breaking. You think it may bring promise of relief, but the calm waters that now surround the fleet contain a deadlier threat. A veil of fog has rolled across the still ocean from the broken spine of the land known as the Kurlinden Isles. Strange dark shapes hide within the mist. They grow larger, and slowly the distinct outlines of ships become plain. Prepare for battle! The Admiral's cry is repeated among the many decks of the Duraness fleets. All hands on deck. As the black ships approach through the fog, a horrific sight befalls you. They are death hulks, sunken ships crewed by the living corpses of drowned sailors, summoned to the surface by great wizardry. They are closing for battle. The fog vanishes, and you can now see that the death hulk bars the entrance to the Holmgulf. In the center of the line is a sinister flagship, which sails towards you, a huge ram protruding from its black prow. As it rips its way through the hull of the Duranor, you hear the Admiral's last desperate order. Abandon ship! You are now in the thick of the enemy fleet, and the ship is sinking fast. If you wish to jump to the deck of the Death Hulk, turn to 30. If you want to dive into the sea and go somewhere else, no. You land on the rotting timbers and crash straight through to the deck below. You are unharmed by the fall, but the stench of decay that fills your nostrils is overwhelming. You clamber up and unsheath the summer sword. 4 ghastly zombies stagger from the gloom. Their twisted hands extend towards your throat. You must fight them as a single enemy. They are undead creatures. Remember to double the damage you do due to the summer sword. They are immune to Mind Blast. So they'll probably die in one hit. Yep. Summer Sword OP! If you win the fight, turn to this page. The stench of the ship is making you choke. You lose 1 endurance point. You must get out of this hold or you will suffocate. We will use Sixth Sense. Someone or something is approaching the door of the hold from the other side. If you climb out through the shattered deck, you will leave your legs vulnerable to attack from below. There is no other way out. You sense that it is an evil creature of considerable power. You raise the summer sword and prepare for combat. The door bursts open and in rushes a Hellghast, its black sword raised. You strike the creature as it enters the hold and open a terrible gash in its chest. It lets out a hideous cry, but although wounded, it leaps forward to attack you. You must fight it to the death. It's undead, so you do double damage with the summer sword. It is immune to Mind Blast. Fight. Summer Sword OP! Oof! remember the last time we fought one of those, it killed us, right? And now that we have the sword of +8 combat skill and double damage to undead, just one hit KO it. You make your way up a flight of stairs and onto the crowded deck. Fierce battle rages about you as the Duranese fleet is engulfed by the rush of ghost death hulks. Suddenly a flash of searing flame shoots from a tower at the rear of the death hulk you are on and explodes into the side of a Duranese warship less than 50 yards away. You watch with horror as soldiers leap from the deck, their clothes and hair aflame. Sure, investigate the tower, why not? I have ever been given the Crystal Star Pendant. 2 zombies try to block your passage, and you cleave through them with the Summer Sword. You're at the foot of the tower, and you see a hunchbacked man in crimson robes. He wears a tall, curved tokmor, a magician's headdress. It bears the emblem of a serpent. In his right hand is a black staff. We have been given the Crystal Star Pendant. He is Vonatar, the traitor, renegade wizard from the Magician's Guild. He is a master of the black arts and possesses great power that the Dark Lords themselves have given him. It was his agent who tried to assassinate you, and it is he who commands the Death Hulk fleet. Destroy him, and you will destroy the force of evil that gives power to it. Sure. The climb is very difficult. You have only one free hand, the other holding the glowing hilt of the Summer Sword. You eventually reach the rim of the tower and quickly hook a leg on to the narrow ledge. You're about to jump and attack when a thin voice makes you freeze. How I shall delight in the irony of your death, Lone Wolf. The sorcerer is standing in the far corner of the tower, his left hand pointed at your head. Your quest has failed and you must die. A blinding flash of orange flame shoots from his hand. Now remember, our sword is also mirror magic. In a fraction of a second, the searing burst of flame changes direction in midair and is drawn towards the blade of the Summer Sword. The bolt of energy disappears into its golden blade-like water, into a drain. You remember that the Summer Sword has the power to absorb magic, and this power has saved you from certain death. The sorcerer curses you, pulling a jewel from his ornate tokmor, and throws it at your feet. There is a flash of flame and a cloud of choking green gas billows up into your face, filling your nostrils with its acidic smell. You're forced to jump to the deck below to avoid the poisonous gas, and you just catch a glimpse of the sorcerer as he frantically paddles a small boat away. Do we dive into the sea after him? Or attempt to make our way back to a warship? Trying to chase someone in a boat by swimming after them doesn't sound wise to me. As you race along the corpse-littered deck, there are warriors emerging from the doorways that attack you. You must fight them. Sure. Summer Sword OP. They done about a third of our damage. No, a quarter, sorry. If you kill them both, you may jump to the nearby deck. Luck is with you, for you'll land safely on the deck of the Kolkarm, a Duranese warship. The soldiers here have been involved in a desperate battle, but have fought off the enemy and are cutting the grappling ropes that hold the ship to the Death Hulk. From out of the smoke strides Lord Axem, his face bloodied and his shield scarred. Thank the gods you are alive, Lone Wolf. The fight has been bitter and our losses are high, but I am heartened indeed to see you standing before me. Look yonder, their flagship is ablaze. Through the fog of war you see that the huge Death Hulk is sinking beneath a plume of dense black smoke. The Kulk arm is eventually freed and slowly maneuvers out of the tangled wreckage. A wind begins to stir, filling its tattered sails and carrying away the smoke of battle. Lord Axem orders the royal arms of Duranor to be hoisted aloft so that other ships can rally to the Kolkarm. For the first time since the battle begun, you can now see the other Duranese ships. It is an amazing sight, for as the enemy flagship sinks beneath the waves, So every death hulk on the horizon returns to its watery grave. Their sorcery is broken. We have won this battle, says Lord Axum. And within a few minutes, not one of the death hulks remains afloat. 70 Duranese warships left Port Bax, and now only 50 enter the Holm Gulf. The battle has claimed many brave men, including Admiral Colfin, who died aboard the flagship, the first to be sunk. But despite this loss, a great victory has been won. A victory which inspires the soldiers with new strength, so that the past ordeal of both the voyage and the battle are now forgotten. As their optimism and determination return, all are eager to reach Holmgard and raise the siege. It is dusk on the 37th day. Remember, we had 40. Of your quest, when you sight the spires of Holmgard on the horizon, the city stands defiantly against the army of the Dark Lords, although under siege. Flickering in the darkness, you can see small fires burning throughout the capital. A confident Lord Axum joins you. The moonless sky will aid us this night. We will enter the harbour unseen. Come the dawn, my men will scatter, the wretched foe like dead leaves upon a wind of storm. As you enter Holmgard harbour and head at the head of the Duranese fleet, you unsheath the summer sword and prepare to fulfill your destiny. Holmgard has suffered much since your departure. Many of the shops and houses, you remember, passing on your way to the quay, are little more now than heaps of ash. The Dark Lord's army and their evil engines of war surround the walls, and the flaming arcs of fireballs shooting through the air continuously light the night sky as they rain down on the streets below. The people fight the fire as best they can, but they are hungry and exhausted and close to surrender. At first, as it enters the harbour, the fleet is mistaken for enemies, and cries of despair can be heard along the quay. But as the first of the soldiers set foot in the city and unfurl the royal arms of Duranor, the news of your return spreads quickly. The cries of despair have changed to a chorus of cheers. The Kai Lord has returned. You are standing at the top of the great watchtower, high above the main gate of the city when the first light of dawn creeps slowly over the horizon. Thousands upon thousands of black-clad enemies are massed around the wall, huddled like beetles in the trenches that cover the plain. In the midst of this horde, a great red tent has been erected, bearing the symbol of a broken skull. It is the mark of Zaganla, Lord of Kag, a Dark Lord in the mist, a Dark Lord of Heldegard. His great ambition is the destruction of Holmgard, his fiercest desire to lead his army to victory over the House of Olnar and claim Summerland for his own. But victory is not to be his this day. Raising the summer sword high above your head, a shaft of dawn sunlight catches upon the tip of the golden sword, and a brilliant flash of blinding white flame runs its entire length. The power of the summer sword electrifies you. Your senses reel and your body reacts instinctively. You lower it and point the blade towards the tent of Lord Zagana. There is a mighty roar as the power of the sun sword is unleashed in a searing white beam. The tent explodes in a brilliant fireball of white flame, and a brilliant fireball of white flame mushrooms skyward. A long and terrible cry rends the air. It is Lord Zagana, the leader of the evil army no more. Gripped with fear and panic, the vast black army rise up and run into chaos from the city wall. The impossible has happened. Their invincible master is slain. Again, the summer sword has returned to defeat them. The armies and allies of the Duranor ride out of the city gates in pursuit of the panic-stricken enemy as they run blindly towards the Derncrag Mountains. Victory is yours, Holmgard is saved, and the murder of the Kai has been avenged. But for you, Lone Wolf, a life of adventure has only just begun. A new challenge awaits you and the Summer Sword in Book 3 of the series, The Caverns of Cult. Cool. Unfortunately, we've incremented our death counter higher than our book counter. I was hoping to to stay at just 1, but not too bad. Ugh. Onwards, eh? To book 3 next time.